Ah, cute girls doing cute things. This looks great. Oh, heck no. Key. No. This Key Studio, I ain't falling for it. Ain't falling for it.
Damn it. You suck, Key.
Alright, I'm not falling for it again. Let's go.
Damn it, Key. Son of a... I'm not crying. You're crying. I'm not crying.
Yes, Key Studios is back with yet another tear-jerking, cute girls doing cute things, get you to fall in love with them, and the new tragedy that makes you cry your eyes out. Yes, Prima Doll is here. Summer 2022 anime season has brought us Prima Doll, a series that I was pretty excited for coming into this season, but does it live up to expectation? This is my thoughts on the first 2 episodes, so let's jump right into it. Prima Doll opens up in a post-war era. It seems like there were many warring sides. They produced these things known as the Mechanica, and these Mechanica fought the battles for them. It also seems like there's the existence of these automatas, these robot girls that are able to actually control these Mechanica. Well, now that the war is seemingly over and there's some peace within this world, most all these Mechanica and the automata were supposed to be decommissioned and taken down and destroyed. But one such individual from the army that's retired, Nagi Toma, has decided to take these automata and kind of recreate them and restructure them so they can actually have normal lives, or at least work at his cafe. Or her cafe. Haven't really got that yet. He says Boku a lot, but who can tell in anime, honestly? Well, at the very beginning of the series, we follow Haizakura, and she is one such automata. And she wakes up in this basement, sees this decommissioned automata, and then goes to the surface where she finds a cafe, and then goes outside to meet a girl named Chio. And really quickly, we get the idea that Haizakura doesn't even know who she is, doesn't know where she's from, just that she's here. Well, after saving Chio from a random Mechanica that's just storming down this road that she's able to actually control with her ability, as I mentioned earlier, automata can control the Mechanica depending on what generation they are. She finally meets Nagi, and Nagi kind of fills her in on the whole situation. That yes, I've wiped your entire memory, I've reconstructed you, and now you can work at this cafe and enjoy your time here. So Haizakura is working alongside all these other automata in this cafe called the Black Cat Cafe. All the while, you sort of get a little bit of hint on the outside that things are still happening. Like there's this group called the Imperial Line Faction that's sort of using these dolls to threaten peace between the empire that they are in and the world at large. And that yes, Nagi is not supposed to have these automata, and that there's a kind of an idea that they're supposed to be decommissioned. And yes, kind of sprinkled in between there is these little cute moments with Haizakura trying to learn how to be a proper person working at this cafe, people questioning who Haizakura is because they don't really have an idea of what like group she was in the military, and additionally get these little stories about different automata and their experiences in the past, which is honestly totally what I was expecting. Yes, cute girls at a cafe, and there's a war story in the background. There's obviously going to be some tragedies and stuff they're probably going to dig into. So my thoughts on Prima Doll so far. First things first, it looks very beautiful. This is being done by Biburi Studios, and they're doing a really great job. These characters look absolutely adorable. Their design, the color itself is really, it just pops. It's kind of interesting seeing a setting where everything is sort of just brown and there's not much color in the environment itself. Like a very post-war setting where, yes, you don't have people walking around in very silk, colorful fabric, but yet you have these girls that are just very colorful. They stand out. They almost pop in an environment. There's this one point where Haizakura is walking with Gekka to this marketplace, and as they're walking by people, they just stand out so much. These dolls that are just kind of very beautiful and very vibrant in color. And again, like I usually say, if you're going to have a show about cute girls doing cute things and then eventually probably make you cry over those cute girls, they gotta look good. And like I said, they're doing a fantastic job. We have the character designer that did Kinder no Mosaic, which really great designs there as well. Outside of that, yes, let's get into essentially the key flavor here, the story itself. I do like the introduction so far. We gotten very comfortable with the characters. Introducing Haizakura in this environment really allowed us to kind of see how everything works from a perspective of a character that really doesn't know how things work. Again, getting into her duties as, well, trying to figure out what her duties are going to be at this cafe because she's apparently terrible at everything. Even one of the other girls is like, who is this girl and why is she so useless? She's got a clumsiness about her, that little bit of moe. But again, we're getting a perspective of what's kind of expected of her in the setting, and additionally kind of establishing the idea that she has no purpose, despite the fact that These automatas are supposed to have a purpose. But as we finish the first episode, we get the story about Yuguri, who is essentially a broken automata, and her reacquainting herself with Chio, who knew her from the past, getting a little sense of a broken automata, how they were overused in the war itself and thus destroyed, giving a little bit of humanization to the automatas. It was really kind of seemed to be the key thing in what they did with Yuguri. How the fact that she wants to make Chio happy, but there's one big problem. She's broken. She has no memories, and she can't seem to establish memories. Despite the fact that she's hanging around Chio, and Chio's talking about all these things they did together, she can't retain those memories. She's ultimately going to break, and she doesn't want to break Chio's heart at the same time. And getting to the second episode, we sort of got a flavor of what I was expecting coming in the series. Having these girls that work at this cafe and learning about their history, and yes, technically that history coming back to bite them. In the idea that Gekka was a sentry. She would go out and scout ahead, and her whole duty was to make sure that the people behind her knew what to expect. And yes, what comes from that, the tragedies that might unfold if she did not fulfill her job. And yes, technically that's still being her purpose even to this day, despite the fact that you kind of want these girls to have a happy life. That's kind of Nagi's whole goal, is to allow these automatas that are technically robots to have a life, to have experiences, because they seemingly have emotions about themselves. They have almost human-like characteristics, despite the fact that they're robots. And I think so far it's pulling off those stories very well. I would argue that, yes, a lot of the kind of fluff in between those stories are kind of typical moe, cute girls doing cute things, which I personally don't mind. But again, I think those are the things that establish a connection that the viewer has with the characters. And I think if you watch an episode or two and you're getting that experience that, man, these girls are cute, I want them to be happy, always smile. When it comes to those points where I think it's eventually going to start breaking your heart, I think that's the typical key fare. That's where it's really going to get you, and I think that's where they do best, honestly. And unfortunately, as bad as it is to say, whenever you come into a key series knowing full well it's going to break your heart, it's probably going to break your heart. And yes, I would argue that a lot of that connection is from the character designs. It's from the cutesiness of them. But I think it's doing it well. It's doing its job. This is what it set out to do, and it's pulling it off. Now, I would say that Yuguri's story at the very beginning was some really solid writing. I liked the concept of her having this established relationship, but then realizing at some point that she's never going to be normal. Like, this isn't one of those things where magic spell goes off and they're suddenly fixed. This is the reality that's kind of sitting in, and I like the fact that they were willing to kind of hit on that reality and make it into a story. Gekka's story was fine. She felt like she was broken because of the experiences she went through. She felt like she was a broken automata, preventing her from having normal emotions. And I think it hit on that pretty well. It wasn't probably the best story comparative to Yuguri's, but at least between the two of them, I can see them some solid writing going forward. And we obviously still have a lot of characters to go through. I'll be curious if eventually it will get into the idea of them having to be decommissioned. Will Nagi at some point be unable to protect the girls anymore? Will something terrible happen and then they'll be to blame and then he'll have to kind of work out that situation? Or is it going to be one of those things where, as they've kind of already alluded to with Gekka's story, it's going to be one of those things where despite the fact that everything should be decommissioned, he will probably, with his girls, have to be the ones that protect this area from an ongoing war. But that's my thoughts on Prima Doll so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what's thought of the series if you're going to be checking it out. Subscribe if you've not already so you can get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.